We're going to cut straight to the chase. A Packers insider mentioned last night on social media that Green Bay has called the Miami Dolphins to check on the availability of their star running back, Devon Achane. I'm going to break down what was reported, what it might mean, and what a trade might look like on today's show. But before we get into that, make sure you guys join us by subscribing. 297 subs, that's all we need to reach our next massive milestone of 16,000 subscribers. If that doesn't seem like much, well, we've only been a channel for about 8 months. So it's a lot, okay? But you get returned daily free Packers shows. When you subscribe, we appreciate it. We give you daily content. And with that, let's talk about Achane. Devon Achane, is he on his way to becoming a Green Bay Packer? That's what we're talking about. Welcome to the Packers Report, everybody. My name is Joey Peterson. I am your host. So the insider that we're getting all our information from today is our main man, Easton Butler. He's a writer for the Packer Report, not to be confused with the Packers Report, which is what you are currently watching, but he's a guy that has really proved to be a great inside source over the last couple of months. 2 days before the Green Bay Packers officially traded for Micah Parsons, he tweeted out, guys, Micah could be a Packer if what I'm told is right. He was also the one last week that mentioned that 2 teams have called on Packers edge rusher Kingsley Enagbare. And then just earlier this morning, ESPN released an article that said, well, 2 teams have called on Packers edge rusher Kingsley Enagbare. Easton Butler, he's been right about a lot of things. That's why I trust him with this report talking about how the Green Bay Packers have called about Achane. This all comes from Jordan Schultz's tweet last night. He said, teams are keeping an eye on the Jets ahead of the trade deadline. Names being mentioned include Breece Hall, Quincy Williams, Jermaine Johnson, Will McDonald, Michael Carter, Allen Lazard, among other sources. Well, Easton Butler quoted that and said, the Packers have called for a defensive player 2 weeks ago from the New York Jets. More on that in a second. Then someone got in his replies, this man named Matt Baker, shout out to you, Matt, saying we need a running back. Breece, who am I kidding? I'd be excited to get any of these players. Easton said they did call about some running backs, not the Jets, though. Matt then asked who, and he said Achane. Called on his price, I believe. That is 1. Now, I want to give you a disclaimer. Calling on a running back doesn't mean that you are in deep conversations with a team about trading for that player. If I called the New York Giants and said, hey, are y'all interested? What's the availability of a guy like Kayvon Thibodeau? Just because I'm asking, it doesn't mean we're in deep trade conversations or that something's going to happen very, very quickly. You want to call for availability. You want to call for price gauging, see how much that trade might cost you, and you also want to express your interest, okay? Because if they're getting multiple calls from around the league, but they believe that you might have the best package, they might give you, certain status among everybody else in the National Football League. And I've got some mixed emotions with the fact that Green Bay called on Devon Achane, okay? I would say my first emotion among all of this, because it's hard not to feel this, is excitement. And the reason I feel that way is because Devon Achane is an absolute star. And I think we're seeing that 100% this season. If you watched any of his football when he was at Texas A&M, this shouldn't surprise you, what he's doing this year. I believe he's the most dynamic running back in football. 89 carries, 32 receptions, right? He can he can catch, he can tote the rock, 683 total yards and 6 total touchdowns. And I feel like, if I'm being 100% honest with you, he might be moved. And the reason I feel that way is because right now, his value has never been higher. He's dealt with injuries a decent bit in his career, and this season, he's fully healthy, and he's absolutely dominating on the football field. And so Miami might feel like, oh my gosh, we have to get rid of him right now because it's never been this high, and it never maybe ever will be this high again. So this is probably the peak of what we can get in an offer from him. But they also have to think about not trading away one of their best players when they're about to go into a massive rebuild, in my opinion. Like, just sit there for a second and close your eyes. Unless you're listening to me while driving, then please do not close your eyes. But if you're just at your desk at work, if you're at home, close your eyes with me and imagine Josh Jacobs and Devin Achane on the same football team. Imagine them in the same backfield. Guys, that is as lethal as a 1-2 punch as you can get all across the NFL. That takes Sonic and Knuckles from the Detroit Lions and multiplies them tenfold, in my opinion. Because Achane and Jahmyr Gibbs are very similar type backs. All-purpose receiving backs. Achane actually has more all-purpose yards than Jahmyr Gibbs does this season. And if you compare David Montgomery and Josh Jacobs to each other, like, come on, what are we doing? So that's my first emotion. My second emotion brings me a little bit back down to earth, and there's a little bit of confusion with it. Because I'm sitting there scratching my head and saying running back is not the biggest need of this team right now. I think you got 3 big weaknesses, and running back is not on that list. I think it goes cornerback, right guard, and depth on the interior of your defensive line. Now, when Devontae Wyatt comes back, that might not be as big of a deal, but the fact that you need it when he's gone, I think shows you that this is still a similar weakness. But cornerback and right guard, in my opinion, they're at the very top of that list. I'd put running back decently far down that list because of how amazing Josh Jacobs has been. Because you have one of the top 5-10 running backs in the National Football League. And even behind them, I think we've seen a lot from Emmanuel Wilson and Chris Brooks over the last couple of weeks as Jacobs has been dealing with a calf injury, as he's been dealing with the flu as well. And I've liked what I've seen from those guys. And honestly, just offense as a whole, I think I would put down the list if it's not offensive line you're talking about. I don't think we need to do anything with the wide receivers, adding talent, I should say. Obviously, we don't have to do anything at quarterback. I think the tackles, center position is fine. I just think you need some help at guard. And so as much as I'm excited at the thought of Devin Achane being a Green Bay Packer, being in the same backfield as Josh Jacobs, Jordan Love, there is a little bit of me that's confused because it's not at the top of the list in terms of what I believe the Green Bay Packers need. Should the Packers trade for Devin Achane? You let me know in the comment section down below. Go ahead, give me a yes and give me a no with your answer. Don't go anywhere, okay? Because coming up very, very soon, we are going to address this tweet from Austin Butler. We're talking about how he said the Green Bay Packers called the Jets for a defensive player. We'll talk about who it might be. We'll talk about who it's not. All that more coming up. Don't go anywhere. Keep hanging out with us. Before that, if you want to hang out in something a little more comfortable, go to chatsports.com/GB longsleeve. You can get this long sleeve t-shirt for just $17. $17. There's nowhere else where you can find a Packers t-shirt that looks as sweet as this, feels as good as this, for just $17. It was $32. They're doing a massive sale right now. All you got to do is go to chatsports.com/GB longsleeve. I put that in the comments. I also put that in the description of today's video. Give it a click. Check it out. And maybe it can be yours in just a couple of days. So what we know from Butler is that Green Bay called for a defensive player. They called the New York Jets for a defensive player. Because the Jets, as they sit right now with a winless record, it's pretty much determined that they are going to do a fire sale at the trade deadline to kind of start this rebuild with as many draft picks as they can get. I will start this. Don't get your hopes up. We know they didn't inquire about Quinnen Williams, and we know they didn't inquire about Sauce Gardner. Quinnen Williams and Sauce might get moved, but the Green Bay Packers will not be the team that they get moved to. I feel like a more likely option for Green Bay is Michael Carter II, cornerback, or Jermaine Johnson at the edge position. Okay? Let's talk about each of them brick by brick, starting with Michael Carter. Because I do believe, like we talked about earlier, the cornerback position is far greater of a need than I'd say anywhere else on this roster. But with that being said, I'm not super interested in Michael Carter because, frankly, he's not that good. 139 snaps this season. He's up 9 catches and 139 snaps, 123 yards. Quarterback rating, so passer rating, when he's being targeted, is a 99.2. And his PFF coverage grade is at a 35.9. Okay? He just really hasn't done much this year, and I think you need to improve a lot at the cornerback position. I don't think Carter necessarily gives you that. Now let's talk about Jermaine Johnson. 2025 has been off to a decent start for him. 2024, he got injured, only played in 2 games. But it's that 2023 season, the year after his rookie year, in which he was a first-round pick out of Florida State, that he was phenomenal. 7.5 sacks, 11 tackles for loss, 7 pass breakups, 55 tackles. So Jermaine Johnson, I think he could be a hell of a football player, but like interior defensive line and cornerback are far greater of a need. Now, if you are going to trade away Kingsley Enagbare, which we've talked about before, we're going to talk about that again throughout the rest of this week, then I could see maybe adding Jermaine Johnson in at edge. But still, even if you do that, I just still think you need a little bit more help in the cornerback room. Pick one of those 2 guys to trade for. Michael Carter II, Jermaine Johnson II. Type their initials, so give me an MC or a JJ in the comment section down below. That's going to do it for today's show. Appreciate you guys for hanging out with us. Make sure you got me on Twitter, Instagram. Also, make sure you subscribe. Okay, daily updates on your Green Bay Packers. As the trade deadline rolls on, there's going to be more rumors, more news, more everything. We'll get you covered right here